everyone, welcome to another video with me, Elmo J. Cartlin. You can call me this guy if that's tricky to pronounce. It's a pleasure to have you along. Today I'm going to be talking about what is talent and does it really matter? So I'll be right back after this intro. Okay, so like I said, today I'm going to be talking about what talent is and does it really matter? Well, of course it does. Don't be silly. Thank you. That's all. Goodbye. No, just kidding. Of course, talent does matter, but does it really matter that much? Actually, I don't think so. If I was forced to put numbers on stuff, I would say talent amounts for 5 to 10%, and everything else is work. So you need to put in the hours on your instrument or whatever else it is that you're doing. It can be a sport, it can be whatever. And talent is something else. Mostly, I think the idea of talent keeps us from learning. I meet these kinds of people basically every day in my day job as a music teacher. People who say, I can't learn the guitar because my fingers are too short, I don't come from a musical family or whatever. It's all these kinds of things. And now that's the kind of flip side of talent, is saying that you don't have talent. You're not musically inclined. You could have physical things that you think are standing in your way, when most of the stuff is just in your head. So you could take someone like Danny Gatson, who was a brilliant guitar player. He had very short fingers, and he didn't let the short fingers get in his way. He just wanted to play. Of course, talent is somehow a real thing. We learn at different speeds. We start at some kind of level which can be higher for some people and lower for some other people. So you might come from a musical background, which would give you some kind of pre-existing, let's call it talent, compared to someone who comes from a non-musical background. But like I said, I think talent is just 5 or 10%, and the rest is hard work. And mostly, again, like I said, talent, or the idea of talent, keeps people from actually trying their wings and trying to learn an instrument or whatever else it is that they're thinking of learning. Personally, I come from a musical background, so I would class myself as having some talent to begin with, but I think that's the wrong term. I would actually venture that potential is much more important, and I'll get that to that later on. But the way it worked for me was that basically I heard music all through my childhood, which helped my musical ear develop at an early age. But that meant absolutely nothing for me when I started practicing. So now I can do this. This is an exercise I did way back in the day when I was starting out. Flip that around, and that becomes something completely different, because a big part of whatever instrument you're learning is technique, and I obviously don't have the required technique for that here. See if I can turn this on. So there's a whole bunch to learn, regardless of talent, regardless of musical inclination. Now, I haven't practiced that left-handed at all, so that's where I'm at. That's where basically I started off. Now, of course, I have a bunch of knowledge of how that should be done, but I can't apply it. I didn't have that knowledge when I was starting out playing kind of regular right-handed, but I did have some kind of existing musical talent or whatever, mainly to do with recognizing different things by ear, so I had a good ear. But still, I had to put in tons of hours. And one example I would give here is Steve Vai. He practiced for, I think, depends on which interview you read, it was somewhere between 10 hours to 12 hours or whatever in his formative years. And he said he was not from a very musical background, and he turned out quite all right. So I would say that talent actually doesn't really matter that much. It has more to do with if you think it matters and it stops you from playing altogether, then it matters. But if you just start playing, then there should be no reason why you couldn't become as good as your potential will allow you. Now, that's what I wanted to get into, potential. Because we all have different potentials. Not all of us are going to win the 100-meter Olympic sprint. Because even if we put in the same amount of hours, the exact same amount of hours, we have 100 people doing the same thing, doing everything identically, we're different. So someone's going to be faster, someone's going to be slower. But that doesn't mean that basically what's going to happen is that everyone's going to be actually quite good. And music isn't a 100-meter sprint where we measure how fast we are. What we're doing musically is something different. And you don't know your potential unless you explore it. And that's my kind of point. So if you're thinking about talent and saying, I'm not talented, that's the wrong way around. What you should be thinking of is finding out what's my potential. I have this goal, I want to be whichever guitar player that is, or if you're a drummer, you want to be this drummer or that, and you see how far you can get. And my other point is basically that that journey, even if you never reach that goal, is going to be mostly extremely rewarding, very much fun. I know tons of people who play an instrument who never reached their goal of becoming the next big whatever, Yngwie Malmsteen, Steve Vai, whatever. And they might consider themselves okay musicians, good musicians. They might be frustrated a bit by the fact that they're not as good as Yngwie Malmsteen or whoever. But they enjoy every minute of making music, playing their instrument. And that's kind of the big thing. You don't, there is no end. The end is, that's when we die. That's the end. There is no end to your musical journey. And there is no kind of pinnacle. There are ups and downs, and the general, if you play a lot, you'll just keep progressing, not in a steady line, but kind of like this. But it'll be mostly fun, rewarding. It'll give your life some meaning. So that's why I think you should ditch talent and maybe not even think of potential. Just explore your potential, explore your instrument, see what it is that you're capable of during your journey. A goal will help, of course, and practicing enough and practicing the right things, although I think practicing the right thing is also slightly over-advertised. It's more important that you actually play. But there is, of course, a difference between playing this to playing that. Something might be right for you, whereas this might not be. And then there's the final thing, where if you're still doubting me, there's a Romanian-born drummer. I think he lives in England now. His name is Cornel Hrisca-munn. I have no idea if I'm saying that correctly. And he was born with certain physical limitations. Now, he plays drums and he plays bass, even though he has only one whole leg and, well, both of his hands are lacking quite a lot. So I think he has one arm that ends here and one arm with kind of something where he can actually hold a drumstick. So he has a drumstick strapped to his where his elbow should be, and then he can hold a drumstick with his other arm, and he plays drums. He's not the best drummer in the world, but he's actually quite good, and especially considering his physical limitations, he's astounding. And I think he serves as an inspirational example of someone who is just like, talent doesn't come into it. If you want something enough, do it. You'll find a way around it. I'll put a link to his YouTube channel below, or one of his videos, so you can check him out. And other examples, like Django Reinhardt, he only had 2 fingers working after, I think it was an accident with a fire or something, and he turned out quite all right on guitar as well. So all this talk about talent, forget about that. If you want to play guitar, play guitar. If you want to play drums, play drums. That's basically all I have for you today. Talent, yeah, there is such a thing, but it amounts to very little. It's mostly a mental block that kind of resides in our own kind of consciousness. So I hope you liked the video. Give it a thumbs up if you did. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. If you have any other kind of inspirational examples, please let me know. I'd be interested to check them out. Or if you have any other comments, put them in the comments as well. Subscribe if you haven't already, hit that bell notification thing, and support me on Patreon, because yeah, it helps me make more of these videos, and you get a bunch of exclusive stuff. Also, if you want free music, there's a link to my website below where you can get free music, which is fun. Yay! So that's all I have for you today. See you in another one. Take care. Goodbye.